Stop waking up at 6? Okay then.
When I was a kid, probably 7 to 12, I'd routinely wake up at 5 to 6 in the morning with no alarm, perfectly rested, and decide I'd just go play some RuneScape before school. I was homeschooled at the time, so I had a good couple hours before I was supposed to start. For some reason my mom had a problem with this. She had a lot of problems with a lot of things, but that's another rant for my therapist. So naturally she decides to tell me that I can't wake up at 6 anymore. So I thought, as you probably do, that she was being stupid, but of course not being brave enough to tell her so, went into my bedroom, and set my alarm for 6:01 instead. When she woke up the next day and found me on the computer, she of course started screaming at me. I waited patiently for her to stop, and then proudly announced that I had not disobeyed her, I had woken up at 6:01 instead. My victory was short-lived, as I then got my ass beat and was grounded. I never was allowed to wake up early again, and of course am now a lazy adult who would rather sleep as much as possible. Edit. Thanks to you/Caulfield88uke for pointing out I didn't clarify. I woke up without an alarm when I was really little, but then started sleeping more and set an alarm because I genuinely enjoyed waking up early. I made it sound weird. Also, it wasn't because I played video games. It was solely the waking up part. Never had issues with school because of it, was never tired. Wasn't loud in the morning, didn't wake her up. She was just a narcissistic boss. This kinda reminds me of how as a minor, my bedtime was 8, until I was 16, then it was 9, and how it baffled me when my parents were surprised and angry that I routinely woke up around 5. Jesus, your mom belongs on /r/insane parents. I would never be mad at a kid for doing that. Even if you didn't want them up and unsupervised in the morning, if they find a workaround your instructions, just adjust your instructions and say no getting up before 7 a.m. TF is wrong with her? As a parent, as long as you don't wake me up or make a giant mess everywhere else, knock yourself out waking up early. Also, don't complain about being sleepy later. Otherwise, go for it. This reminds me of the time my parents decided to set a curfew. 2 months before my 18th birthday. I told them I would be sleeping at my best friend's place if they were suddenly setting a curfew for 2 months, which seemed silly to me. They agreed to let me sleep over at my friend's place, but knowing what I was up to, they told me you aren't allowed back in the house before 7 a.m. You can guess the rest of the story. I went out clubbing, sat on a bench with a friend, who kept me company, until 7 a.m., got back into the house, and picked up a book to read. When my dad came downstairs at 7:30 he was like, "What are you doing here?" And I told him, well, it's past 7 a.m., so I'm allowed to return from my sleepover. Curfew was cancelled.
Your mom had some serious control issues. The golden age of RuneScape. Before you had a world map permanently embedded in your brain and still enjoyed the thrill of discovering new locations and skills. My 12-year-old wakes himself up at 6:30 every school day so he can have some time to himself before I get up and start bossing him around. I love it, and can tell so does he. The mornings he sleeps in always end up being a little tense. Why your mother would be angry for this is beyond me. Why anybody would be angry at another person for their sleeping pattern is infuriating. I thought you were going to wake up at 4 a.m. and play even more RuneScape. I used to get up at 6 every morning when in middle school, so I could watch the excellent cartoon, Exo Squad. Now I get up at 6 to be ready for work. My homeschool kids tried this too. Problem is, in our house, computer time doesn't start until schoolwork is finished. So they switched to doing some of their unguided lessons before I got in there for the school day. They'd be so proud. Look, Ma, I already got my Duolingo and extra math done. My mom would have loved you. My kid wakes up at about 6 a.m. every day. Since birth. Still in elementary school. I love him. So we asked him to play quietly in his room until 7 a.m. His idea of quiet used to be a lot louder than it is now. At 7 a.m. he'll come out of his room, and if we're still asleep he'll play on the computer till we wake up. I don't yell at him or beat his ass because I love him. Yep. I wasn't allowed up past 9 p.m. But I wasn't allowed to get up before 8 a.m. Sometimes I could be up at 7. But only for specific reasons. As a 17-year-old, the rules didn't change. I had to be asleep in my room for 11 hours a day. I was always awake for at least 3 of those hours. Awake. Trapped in a dark room with nothing to do for 3 hours a day. Solitary confinement is a form of torture, and I went through it daily. It was a huge fight to get my bedtime to no bedtime as well. I have to tell my wife constantly that our son is used to waking up early, so it's only natural that he wakes up early on the weekends. Jesus. If my kids woke up at 6 a.m. and didn't annoy the shit out of me for the next 2 hours until I get up, I would give them a trophy. What the fuck? Waking up at 6 a.m. is an incredibly good habit to be in. When I was little, I was also an early waker. Grandma would usually be up at that hour doing old people stuff, making breakfast. It was usually right around 6 a.m. And oh my god, I had the best cartoons to watch that early. Kablam! And Real Monsters was all the motivation I needed. WTF? If my kid woke up early and entertained himself with a video game without being all crazy loud, I'd enjoy it. When he has to get UO for school. Pre-COVID, since he hasn't been in full-time school yet this year. It was always a fight. But now he will get up early on my days off and come jump in my bed to wake me up to make him breakfast. I have no issue feeding my child, don't take it that way. We just have several options that are quick and easy. He usually asks for those because he would rather me do it than do it himself. Was it the waking up early that she was mad at, or the playing video games before school? I couldn't let my son, who was homeschooled for development issues, play video games before school. It was because when he did, he couldn't get focused to do his schoolwork. He could play after he did schooling though, and when there was no schooling he could play as early as he wanted. Imagine as a parent you punish your kid for getting out of bed bright and early. 98% of parents would dream for a child that doesn't have to be dragged out of bed. Tears of joy.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.